Perfect. All right, we'll give it another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll try to get started on time here. So we'll get started here in about a minute. We'll wait for some more people to kind of trickle in, and we'll just get started right on time. All right, it is 2:30, so I think we're just going to get straight into it today. So I do have the agenda pulled up for the, well, first off, welcome to the CSLIP workshop. I do have the agenda pulled up so you can kind of take a look at what we're going to be talking about today. But there's one thing I do want to kind of start off with, and that's kind of the intent of this workshop. This is really to go over through the documentation needed, through the application itself, and some additional information to help you fill out the application itself. Some things that we're not going to really touch on are project-specific improvements. We kind of leave those questions either for some one-on-one conversations over the phone. You can always email me, but we also host some pre-application meetings that are going to be coming in the next month or two. And that's where we really sit down and talk through the project. They're a little bit delayed this year due to some uncertainties with the program, such as like the design costs and the delivery methods for this year. Unfortunately, we still don't have all the information just yet. That being said, there is going to be, I've been told, a presentation to the TAC and the MPO board as well. I think that's going to be taking place September, October-ish. So stay tuned for that information. So we won't be touching on that as much either. We're going to be trying to stay focused on the application itself. So if you take a look at the agenda for today, I think, oops, hold on one second. We're going to be looking at, we're going to be starting off with an overview of the CSLIP program itself. A lot of you have probably seen a lot of these slides before, but we're just going to kind of use that as a base for today's presentation, as well as there may be people that aren't as familiar with the CSLIP program. So I think that that really helps them out to get some context for what the program is about. So after we go through the overview of the program, I'll take you all to the CSLIP website, give you a little rundown of all the information that's available on there. And then we'll kind of transition from there into some of the key documents that you'll need in order to submit an application. Specifically, we'll be looking at the application checklist because that kind of outlines it all pretty well. And then specifically looking at the cost estimate form. And the reason why we're looking at the cost estimate form and none of the other actual documentation, we're doing a deep dive on that, is because that is what we received pretty much the most amount of questions with. And actually, I'm joined here with Fazal Qureshi, and he's going to be covering that portion of the presentation for me. After we go through some of the documents there, we'll be moving to the application itself. I'll be going question by question, filling out the application, and it should only take about 10 to 15 minutes, that portion. And then we do ask that you, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just write them down, and then we'll be answering all of those during the Q&A. And with that, I think I'm going to transition to the application overview. So just give me a minute while I switch over my screen. All right. You should all be able to see the presentation now. So with that, I will get started. All right, so I wish my task, I'm not sure why my taskbar is there, but anyway, we'll just go on anyway. So the CSLIP program is essentially a funding mechanism that we use here at the MPO to help fund local transportation projects that many of the municipalities want to construct, things like complete streets, safety projects, technology upgrades, things of that sort. And it goes through a process. I know a lot of people kind of think it works like you apply for the project to get ranked and then you immediately get funding. Unfortunately, it does not work that way. It goes through a pretty in-depth process to make sure that the projects are feasible, and then it'll move into programming. So it starts off really with you all, the applicants, filling out all the documentation required and developing the application in partnership with us. We're always here to help. But essentially, once you get all that documentation together, we move to the application submission. That's where you all submit all that data that you've been working so hard to collect. After the projects are submitted, we collect them all and we do the evaluation and ranking. We share that information with DOT. And then after the board approval of the list of projects, we move to the vetting. Now, the vetting takes probably the most amount of time. It takes the course of almost a third of the year. After that, we make sure all the projects are nice and feasible, and we move into the programming. And I'll touch on the last three specifically a little bit more during this presentation. Starting off with the ranking. So the projects are ranked based off of objective criteria that we have at the MPO. And this was developed in partnership with not just our TAC, but our board and our CAC members. And essentially the way it works is we start off with a blank map. We add in all the projects individually. We then create some buffer layers depending on different data sets. And then we input those data sets that were pulled from that evaluation chart. And the program that we use does some auto calculations, and it outputs a raw data set, which we manipulate into a ranked list. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but for the sake of time, I think a higher level approach is probably more convenient right now. So with all the projects ranked, we then, like I mentioned earlier, we take them to the TAC, take them to the CAC, go to the board, get them approved. And after they're approved, we move to the vetting. And the vetting has its own process as well. Like I mentioned earlier, it takes quite a while to vet these projects. There's a pre-review where we sit down and make sure that the projects at face value are feasible. We then conduct some site visits, go out into the field with DOT and some other partners and make sure that not only are they feasible, but they'll actually fit within the physical boundaries of the area. After the review, we sit down and discuss with many different staff members and many different trades, things like environmental, planning, engineering, right-of-way, all get together and provide comments on the project. And then we conduct some coordination with the local agencies that supplied the applications. And after we flesh out some of the minor details, we then go to the vetting closeout. So after the projects are vetted, they go to programming. And in the past, CSLIP received quite a lot of funds, a majority actually of the attributable dollars that we get at the MPO. This, we realize, may not be the best approach because CSLIP really can't fund everything. There's some limitations with the different funding and the cycles that we do. So we decided in the 2045 LRTP or MTP, we decided to split out the funding into different programs that we were standing up or already existed at the MPO. So instead of CSLIP getting somewhere in the 100% range of funding allocation, it's now down to about 20%. And it's not like we've lost funds. It's just being spread out to create a more holistic transportation network. It's going to things like transit, going to things like highway, going to the Complete Streets Master Plan, as well as mobility hubs. And the last thing I want to touch on is kind of the final stages of the project itself, and that is the delivery of the project. So in the past, there was basically two delivery methods. There was the local agency program, or LAP, and then there was FDOT. And with LAP, the agencies delivered the projects themselves. The DOT approach, DOT handled basically the entirety of the project. Now, in January, DOT let us know that they are going to be pulling back from delivering local projects. And this left a gap for us. And one of the ways that we're trying to fill that gap is with the MTech. Now, MTech is going to be the delivery arm for the MPO. As of right now, we're not really entirely sure how it's going to work, and we're still working out a lot of those details with DOT directly. So there'll be some more information coming on that, but the intent for the MPO is to have some sort of delivery arm that could take the place of DOT. And with that, that really concludes my overview of CSLIP presentation. So I'll start going and transitioning to item 2, which is the CSLIP website. And just give me another second to change my screen here. All right. So you should see a blank page right now. And the way that you get to the CSLIP website is you'll go to browardmpo.org. And once on the home page, you'll head over to what we do, and then right under the major functions category, you can go to the Complete Streets and Other Localized Initiatives program. So once on the home page, there'll be some general information about the program. There's a brief video about what is CSLIP. This is where I'm going to be posting a lot of the updates, so you can see the workshop flyer here, as well as some other updates about the program below. And I try to update them as frequently as possible. So if you need some general information, I try to keep this page as up to date as possible. If you go to the left-hand tab, you'll see some other categories as well. Things like history, questions and answers, which if you're not very familiar with the program, this is a great place to start. There's a lot of frequently asked questions on here. Things like what can CSLIP fund? Can we fund landscaping? and a variety of other things. There's also a past awards tab, which goes over the different funding allocations that the cycles have received in the past, as well as previously programmed projects all the way back to 2011. And the last page here is the application information. So this is probably the most important page if you plan to submit. This is where all the documentation is going to be. This is where the application walkthrough video will be. And this is also a section where you can link to the application itself. So starting with the documentation on this page, there's a variety of things ranging from the program policies. That's the document that outlines the program itself. A copy of the application, a Word doc, essentially that you can fill out, and I'll be opening and showing you that a little bit later on. An application checklist. Again, I'll be showing you that in a few minutes. Some sample resolution language that you'll need to include in your resolution that you provide during the application process. There's a cost estimate form, and this gets updated every year. So even if you have a cost estimate form from the past, you'll still want to download the latest version with the latest information included. And the last two kind of go together. There's that evaluation chart that I showed during the presentation, as well as all the data that we use. So this is all GIS data. So if you have a GIS department, or if you're savvy with GIS itself, it's a bunch of shape files that you can download, and you can kind of get an idea of where your project kind of lies before you even submit. So going back to the application checklist, I want to pull that up and show you what that looks like real quick. So here, oops. So you should see the checklist now. It should be on your screen. And it's essentially, it's a basic Word document, but it helps you get organized and gets you ready to actually submit an application. So it starts off with different required documentation and requirements themselves. So you can see project location map is a required document. You'll also need existing and proposed typical sections, a detailed scope of work, although not necessarily a document. You'll need the scope of work to actually fill out the application. Right-of-way maps are also required, as well as several different resolutions, and I'll talk to you a little bit later about the nuances to that. Detailed public support. One of the things that we really like to hit on is the public support. It's really important that when you're reaching out to your communities, you're not just telling them the benefits that the project will bring, but also if there's any impacts to things like mailboxes, if it's in a neighborhood, or landscaping or things like that. Even if it's within the right-of-way, you still want to make sure that they fully understand what the benefits and the impacts are. And the last required document is the FDOT cost estimate form, which we'll touch on in just a few seconds. And the last four are basically supplemental data, things like plans or programs from local plans and programs, sorry. Supplemental data, so if you had something interesting to share that would help the project out, that's where you'd share that. And also some categories that help you get you some bonus points. So there's bonus points allocated to projects that are part of MPO endorsed corridor studies. And there's also some points for adjacent projects. So things that may provide additional connections. There's also some points that are assigned to that. So also in this document that I'll touch on briefly is how to get organized. And there's some good information in here. I won't read through it all right now, but essentially it just kind of helps you lay out a folder system for how to organize your different documents. This is just a sample. You don't have to do it exactly like this. One thing that I like to do is I like to number them. So for example, the first question, location map right here, I'd name it 01, and then that would bump it up to the top. The next question I would name 02, and so on and so forth, so that they're all in chronological order. And what you do, again, this is all just sample information to help you get organized. You can put all those documents into a documents folder, and then outside that you can have your application copy filled out. So you can just copy and paste all the short answer text in, and then you can just drag and drop all the documents into the submittal part of the application. And it shouldn't take you more than 15, 20 minutes to do all of that. And that's all I have on the application checklist. The next document I did want to show you is the cost estimate form, which Fazal Qureshi will be walking you through right now. Fazal, you want to take over? I'll actually start sharing.
Right. So my name is Fazal Qureshi. I'm gonna go I'm going to give you all a quick demonstration of how to fill out the cost estimate form. First, I'm going to pull up the website. So the first thing that everyone needs to do is once they're ready for that part, click on the cost estimate form. When you click on the cost estimate form, everyone is going to get a download of 3 files. Those 3 files look like, oh, and those 3 files are the lab cost estimates form, a internet link to the pay item cost history, and another internet link to the pay item database. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the lab cost estimate form first. Right, share. All right, so I hope everyone's able to see the cost estimate form on my screen. So so as you see on this cost estimate form, there's a few different columns, and there's a row for every single pay item that you're going to have to add for your project. The first thing you all should do is fill in the project description for a project that this lab cost estimate is for. And from there, everyone's going to have to fill out the pay item number, the pay item description, the unit the pay item is in, as well as engineer's unit cost. Those are the basic necessities to fill this out. And then the most important part is the quantities. And as you can see on the screen, there's a FHWA participating side, and there's a FHWA non-participating columns. So for any item that the locals would like to add to the project, that's not a FHWA reimbursable pay item, they are going to have to add it underneath the non-participating column. So the first thing I'm going to show you all is how to find the pay item numbers, the pay item descriptions, and the units, and then as part 2, I'm going to show you all how to get a unit, to get an engineer's unit cost if the local municipalities do not have a unit cost that they're able to pull up from their projects. Right, so we're going to go back to the file, and let's see. All right, so we're going to go back to the file. The first thing we're going to click on is this pay item database. Once you click on the pay item database, I'm going to show you the screen that you all get. All right, so this is the screen that link brings you to. So this is the FDOT design quantities and estimates database. For most of your projects, you all may not know the pay item number. In case any of you do, you just have to go to the chapter and index that the pay item is a part of. So for other pay items that you're not aware of, you're going to go to the master pay item list tab. Once you click on it, you're going to go down to description. For the sake of this presentation and this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to find sidewalk, for example. You're going to type in sidewalk underneath description and click apply. Once you click apply, it's going to sort through all the pay items that have sidewalk as part of their description. So if you scroll down and you read all of them, you'll see that there's concrete sidewalk and driveways 4-inch thick, and you'll also see a little bit after that there's the 6-inch thick concrete sidewalk and driveways pay item. For this presentation, we can look at the regular 4-inch thick concrete that we use in most places. So that's 522-1. So once you take a note of the pay item that you're looking for, you're going to go back up here. You're going to click on basis of estimates. Once you click on basis of estimates, as we just went over, you're going to go to the chapter and index that the pay item is a part of. So in our case, it's underneath 500 to 599. You're going to click on that. You're going to scroll down. You're going to scroll down to your pay item that you need. So for this one, you'll see there's 522-1 and then 522-2 is right after it. However, you'll also see that there's some other pay items such as this concrete barrier with junction slab. It's 521-8-AA. Once you click on this plus, it'll give you a description of how to figure out what's the last two numbers that you need for the pay item. But for this, we're going to click on this plus sign and it's going to open up the rest of the tab. So when this tab opens, you will see it'll give you the unit, which is square yards. It'll say if it's a planned quantity, which is sometimes you have to include as part of your plans, and it'll give you a brief description of what this pay item covers. And if you go down, it'll give you even what the this should technically say FDM chapter, but it'll give you what chapter you can find more information on this pay item. You can see the FDUT standard plans for where the design, wherever the standard design of this pay item is at. And you'll also see the construction spec section in case you want to see what the construction and material testing and some of the other incidental construction work that's part of this pay item covers. And you go down, and for this one, you'll see there's 522-1, which is the one we're looking for. And it'll say validate. If there's an obsolete date, you make sure that obsolete date is before the end of this this CSLIP cycle. And there will always be at least one pay item that is not obsolete. So that's the one you would choose. So in this case, all right, so you have 522-1, you have the pay item name, the unit it's in, gives you all the description for how to calculate it. Now, once you fill in those columns in the spreadsheet, you are going to go back to the table or to the folder that was downloaded. So let's go back to the folder. Once you go to the folder, all right. So the last link in here that you all haven't clicked on is the pay item cost history. Once you click on that, it's going to take you to another website. Now, share the screen. So once you get to this screen, which is historical cost and other information website, you're going to scroll down. The first thing you're going to see is the current 6-month moving standard statewide average. It gives you an option of either download as PDF or an Excel. It'll also give you the 12-month statewide averages, and it'll give you the current 12-month moving area averages. So for this project, if you want the area average, you just scroll down to area definitions at the bottom, and you'll see Broward as part of area 12. Once you click on area 12, it's going to bring you to this this PDF, and it's sorted by the pay item number. So if we go down to 522-1, you will see that the pay item number. Okay, so once you scroll down to 522-1, the only column here that's important is you have to make sure it's the correct pay item, the correct description, the correct unit of measurement. But the weighted averages is the engineer's cost estimate you're going to plug into the Excel sheet. If there's a pay item that you cannot find in this area average, that means that pay item has not been used in between August 1st of 2019 and July 31st of 2020. So what you're going to do is you're going to go back to the page that popped up before, and you're going to click on the 12-month or 6-month, whichever one you prefer. And then, for instance, so you'll see that there's a difference in the area average for concrete sidewalk. The cost was $41.11. For this one, it is for the whole statewide average. You'll see that the statewide average is actually a little bit higher at $42.29 per square yard. So once you plug in those numbers, you're going to go back to the LAP form. once you go back to the lab form, you're going to plug in all that. We're going to plug in all that information in here, and just make sure that you use it, properly between the participating and non-participating. For a lot of these pay items, if you can, just so when we're vetting it and we're verifying these costs and these quantities, if you could please turn in any supporting documents for how these quantities were calculated, just the linear, for sidewalk, the linear footage multiplied by the average width of the sidewalks. That would be very helpful. And then once you fill out all your pay items up here, and you're going to fill out the bottom, a lot of these are already, these will automatically calculate, and you would have to just fill out the rest of this, and then any supporting documentation for how for the items that you want as the non-participating FHWA reimbursable pay items would be helpful. And with that, I'm going to hand it right back to Connor, and he's going to go over the rest. Give me a second.
Awesome. Thank you, Fazil. So actually, if you could stop. Perfect. Awesome. So I will go ahead and share my screen now, and we'll finish up this. So the next item here is completing the CSLIP application. So to start an application, there's actually two locations you can do it. You can do it from the application information page. I tend to have a link down here. I'll also be adding a tab off to the left-hand side. Right underneath the application information, it'll say something like filling out an application or start application or something like that. It'll take you to a page with some additional information that I definitely encourage you all to read very thoroughly. And then at the bottom of that page, there will be a button that says something along the lines of start an application. You'll click on that and it'll take you to a separate website that'll look a little something like this. So this is the application tool. Those of you that filled out the application last year will be familiar, even 2 cycles ago will be familiar with this. And to be honest, a lot of the questions remain the same, although there are some significant changes due to some changes in the cycle. So either way, I'm going to be filling it out question by question. And to do that, I alluded to a document earlier, and that is the application question list. So I will go ahead and share that with you now so you can see what that kind of looks like. So this is the list that I'm going to be using to help me fill out the application as accurately and as quickly as possible. So you can download the document just like this from the CSLIP website, and it'll have all the questions and all the possible variable questions listed out for you. And as you can see in the highlighted text here, I have went through and answered all the questions beforehand. That way I can get in and get out of the application as quickly as possible. So I'll be following this, and you'll see me just pasting in information. I'm going to be directly copying and pasting it from this page, again, to make it as quick and easy as possible. So with that, I'll flip back over to the application itself, and I'll move this out of the way for me. Oops. There we go. So when you're on the page, you can, you'll see some information here. The version, just to make sure you're on the right version, it should say 5 and then 1. This is just a beta sheet. So even if you were to follow this link, it won't take you to an actual application. So just be wary of that. The application's not actually live yet, so it will be coming in the next couple weeks, and I'll be informing everybody when it does. So as you scroll down, you'll see some information. The first one is just to please read all the instructions very carefully. There's a lot of nuances to some questions, so it'll all be listed out. So I really do encourage everybody to read every question as thoroughly as possible. One of the biggest changes this year is actually the document upload section has been moved to a separate file transfer website. We did this for 2 reasons. One of the major reasons is actually this software has stopped supporting PDF documents. It was never actually supported, but we found a way to modify the software so that we could in fact submit PDF documents, and a lot of you that submitted last year will be familiar. You had to go through like a little upload image button. So they patched that, so we can no longer upload PDF documents. So we moved to a file transfer website. One of the benefits to this is actually there's realistically no file limit, reasonable file limit to the documents now, so you don't have to compress anything. So that's a benefit. One of the downsides is it is in fact a separate website. So the way it's going to work is essentially you would submit this written application through Survey 123. You'll get an automatic email, and so will I, and it'll have the project information on it. From there, I would try to quickly as possible set up a file transfer website for you and then send over an email with the link. You would then follow that link and upload all the documents. And I'll be touching on that a little bit later as well. So with that said, we'll keep on moving. So it just says some other general information, like you just make sure you're reading everything to its entirety. And then at the bottom, it will ask you if you read all the text above, as well as any other additional information available on the CSLIP website. I have, so I'll click yes, and then you can move to the next page. So the second page is just some general information about the project. And again, I'm going to be working straight off of the application question list that I've already filled out. So I'll just be copying and pasting information in. So the first question is just the project name. Doesn't have to be anything, anything imaginative, just something very basic that you can kind of tell what it is. So my project's name is CSLIP Street Bike Lanes, because I will be constructing bike lanes on CSLIP Street. So the next question is what kind of project this is. So obviously it's a bike lane project, so it's going to fit neatly in the complete streets category. We also have things like safety and security, sustainability initiatives, as well as technology enhancements. But a majority of the projects that are submitted through CSLIP end up being complete streets type projects. So the next question is just a brief description of the project. This is what will appear, say, on the ranked list. So this is what your elected officials will see. This is what the public will see. So try to make it as brief as possible, but also as descriptive as possible so people can tell what it is. Again, my project's pretty basic, so I'm going to widen for a 7-foot buffered bike lane on CSLIP Street from A to B. And I will actually change that real quick. So on CSLIP Street from A to B. So the next question here is just what agency you're applying on behalf of. So if you are a city, say the city of Coconut Creek, you would just start typing your name and you'll see that it'll pop up. And you can start anywhere really in the name. You can start with town and all the towns will show up, things like that. Now, every agency that is eligible to submit is programmed into the database. So if you type your agency's name, it should pop up. However, if there, for some reason, is an agency that I've missed, you would just type in other, or you would click on the box itself, scroll to the bottom, and there will be other at the bottom, and a little box will pop up, and you can type in what agency you're applying on behalf of. So the Broward MPO is not in the database, so I'll put them in for now. Next question is whether or not you'll be submitting multiple applications. I will not be, so I'll click no. If you are, you click yes. Another question will pop up. Actually, I can talk about this a little bit. Through the CSLIP program, you can actually make local prioritizations. So if for some reason your project number 2 is ranked higher than your project number 1, you can actually do a 1-for-1 swap. So that's where you would notify that. That does have to be done by resolution though. So you would just be notifying us that we should look out for that, that prioritization in the resolution. But again, I have no other projects, so I'll be clicking no. And then the last question on this page, is this a joint application? Again, the answer is no for me. If you click yes, just comma separate all the partner agencies that you're working with. Most times it's just one other one, but you would just list those there. All right, so the third page of the application is going to be the applicant's information. There was some confusion last year about what applicant meant, so I tried to make it a little bit more clear. It's the submitter's name. So if you're a grant writer, you'd put your name. If you are the planner and you're applying, you'd put your name here. So my name is Connor, so again, just gonna copy and paste that over. And then the next question is the email. So, and actually I'll demonstrate something. So if you start typing, it might turn red. That's because it's supposed to be recognizing an email address. Just keep typing, don't worry too much about that. By the time you put the @ and period sign, it'll clear up and recognize that it's an email address. After you put in your information, there'll be a question asking you for the main contact. So again, if you're a grant writer, chances are you probably won't be the main contact for the transportation project. You probably have an engineer or a planner or somebody else within the agency potentially managing the project. So here, if you were that grant writer and you weren't going to be the one managing it, you would click no here, and then you would do the same thing you did above just for the main contact. So if I had somebody else at the MPO managing the project, I'd put their information here. In this instance, I'm managing the project, so I'll just click yes. So here's two new questions that we added in. So if you remember in cycle 4, there was a question asking if you're interested in LAP. This year, it looks likely that LAP will be the only option. How that will work, again, still working those details out. So this question now is just making sure that you're aware of this change. So you'll have to click yes. And the following question is just if you're interested in having MTech manage the project. Again, we don't have a lot of information about MTech at this very moment. Hopefully by the time you submit, we'll have some more information. So this would be a little bit more of an easier question. I'm just gonna go ahead for the sake of this video and click yes and move on. So the 4th page, again, just a little bit more detailed information about the project. Things like what facility this will be on. This is gonna be on CSLIP Street. If you have multiple facilities, you just, again, comma separate them there, or do an and or something, whatever you feel comfortable with. And then detailed project limits. So mine's a simple project. So again, it's just from Northeast A Ave to Northeast B Ave. If you have a lot of different segments, again, we do ask that you try to list them out as much as possible. I realize that some projects get a little bit more complicated, especially if we're talking about, say, filling in sidewalk gaps in a neighborhood or something like that. It's a little hard to do, very specific limits. So in those instances, we do ask that, again, we ask all the applicants to submit a very detailed map of the location of the project. And that's where you'd kind of outline exactly where these gaps are and which ones you want to fill in for the project. And the last question on this page is actually a map. So the way you use it is you kind of just drag it around with your cursor. If you want to zoom out, you can use the buttons or control scroll. And then here you would just kind of make note of where your project is. So say I wanted to do a project on, let's say Wilton Drive. I know there's a project there now, but if I wanted to do it from through the entire city limits, I would just go ahead and click towards the center of the project, because really this is just to get us, a general idea of where this project is, and also to make sure, confirming that this is the correct project. It also helps with the geocoding process as well. So just try to do the best job you can putting that somewhere in the center of the project. That way we have that information. And then move on. So going on to the 6th page now. Oh, I'm sorry, the 5th page now. The eligibility verification criteria. So this is just going through and making sure that what you're submitting is right off the bat feasible or eligible in this case. So what kind of project, what kind of facility type is it? There's road, greenway, and other. Obviously, if you click other, there'll just be a quick description of what that would be. This is a road, pretty simple, so we'll go with road. Does your agency own the facility? In this case, the Broward MPO owns this facility, so I'll click yes. If you click no, again, there'll be some options that'll pop up. In most cases, it's probably going to be either FDOT or Broward County, but if it's going into another agency, just list that other agency by clicking there. So moving along, is the project able to be constructed within the right-of-way? The only answer you should be putting here is yes. If you click no, the project's not eligible. Again, we verify this, so it should be all within the right-of-way. Every project that we take through CSLIP has to be completely within the right-of-way. Next question is is the applicant's agency prepared to fund the O&M? So we do need commitment to fund operation and maintenance of all the projects that we construct. If you're the agency that's doing it, you'd click yes here. If not, say Broward County is maintaining it, you'd click no. Is another agency prepared to fund it? Yes, and then you list the agency there. They do have to provide a resolution, however. So last question on this page, just provide a brief description of the public outreach that was conducted. Again, we're trying to make public outreach a high priority with these projects. We are really looking for good public support here. So I did a little write-up. It's not a complete thought, but just for the sake of this application, I wrote up a little sentence here. So I put that in and we will move on. I forgot, oh, sorry, let me just do this real quick. There we go. So facility description. There's been some questions about this section in the past. It doesn't really fit neatly into each individual project. I think the most pertinent one is the right-of-way width. And again, this can vary. So if it does vary, just put whatever the most consistent right-of-way width is. I'm just going to put 80 feet here, because it's pretty typical for local roads. But if it does vary, say it's 80 feet somewhere, 60 feet somewhere else, just make sure in the right-of-way, your right-of-way maps are very detailed and show that, and your project reflects that. All of the other questions on here are not required. So things like the existing number of travel lanes, again, it can vary quite a lot. So in this case, it doesn't, so I'll just go ahead and fill it out just to make it easier. You know, it's got 2 existing lanes. It's still gonna have 2 lanes by the end of the project. Existing lane width, we're going from 12 to 11 to accommodate a 7-foot bike lane. The existing total road width, so that's 24 right now with the 2 12-foot lanes. And proposed total width, we're going to be adding 6 feet to each side to get that total of 7-foot bike lanes. Proposed speed limit, or posted speed limit, I'll just put 35 here. And this is where you'd note if you wanted to change the speed limit in the area. Again, there's some additional coordination with that needs to be done. But if you wanted to drop the speed limit to make it a little bit safer, you drop it to 30 or something like that, you'd put that information there. For this project, we'll just keep it at 35. And again, the last question on here, just if there's proposed changes to the curb and gutter. If there are, you know, click yes. If not, click no. Again, each project's very different, so we'll work with you to kind of figure out those details of what exactly you are requesting. And speaking of that, we'll transition into the scope and elements section. So this is where you'll select everything that applies to your project. If you're doing crosswalks, you'd click crosswalks, drainage, landscaping, even items that you don't think are necessarily eligible. Still select them here and provide some descriptions about what you're looking to do. If you want a complete list of these elements, there's actually a list attached in the back of the application question list towards the bottom. There's a couple lists down here and down at the bottom there, and one of them is all the elements listed. So you kind of look beforehand and kind of strategize as to which ones you wanted to talk about. Again, our project is a very simple project. It's only going to be bike lanes. So I'll click that there, scroll to the bottom and hit next, and bike lanes will pop up on the next page. And that is where I will be typing in all the information pertinent to the bike lane. I didn't type out a full sentence because this is just a demo, but you know, you would try to elaborate as much as possible in this section about what it is you want to do. All right, so this is where you will be denoting the purpose and need of the project. And really this is kind of for us just to kind of get an idea of what it is you're trying to do in the area. This helps us kind of figure out what the intent is. If there's something we can help with, we can grasp our minds around what it is you're trying to do here. So the first question is this project solves the problem of blank. You fill that in. This project is the best solution because, you know, blank. Really, with this question, we're looking to make sure that that you thought about this project. You're not just proposing a project because you think it would be a good idea, but it's actually solving a problem, and you looked at different options, different ways to solve that issue, and you landed on this issue. We want to make sure that these projects are well vetted from the get-go. And the last one is everything goes through our 2045. So we just want to make sure that this project is fulfilling the goals of our commitment 2045 document. So this is really the last page of questions, and that relates to the cost of the project. So the first one, and again, this is kind of one of the areas that it gets a little bit confusing, but I try to do the best job possible kind of distinguishing the different costs. And it's really these two here. So the first cost is really everything summed together. So the sum of all costs in the cost estimate sheet. So this is going to be the bottom right cost, the biggest number in the sheet. In this instance, I just made up some numbers. So it's just going to be $1.4 million. And the cost below is the sum of all the pay items together. So this is always going to be lower than this item up here. And the reason why we ask for both is this is really the most important information, but this number is what is the CSLIP program based its cap off of. So this is really the construction cap that we're talking about. So if this project's $1 million here, it's eligible. If it's $3 million here, it's still technically eligible. If it was, you know, it can be much higher than $3 million up here because it's taking into account the CAI, the design costs, all the professional services, contingency, stuff like that. So that's why we asked for those two. This one's a little bit more straightforward. It's just the O&M costs. This is based off of, you know, current cost estimate, present day costs. So that should be fairly easy to fill out. And then once you're done with that, you move to the final page. So the final page, it's two questions not really related to your project, but really just about making sure that you understand that there is also a document upload section and how that will work. And you just agreed that you understand how that works. And again, I'll be demonstrating that in a minute. And the last question is just you agreeing that you filled out this application to the best of your abilities using the most accurate information available to you. So I am going to click agree. And then if I were to submit this, I would click submit at this time. It'll bring you to another window confirming that the submission was accepted. And then shortly after that, you should receive an email if you put your email correctly in that question. So with the application done, I will then, oops, sorry, I have a little Zoom tab, I'll move that over. So you filled out the application, you get the email, and I will get a copy of that email as well. And once I get that copy, I will then set up a file transfer website for you, email you a link. I'll try to do it as quickly as possible. It doesn't take me more than 5 minutes to set up the link. In most cases, just a few. And when I send it over, it'll look a little something like this. So it'll have a bunch of different folders and then a README document at the bottom. And the folders correspond to each question, each document question. So the first one is the project location map. What you'd do is you'd open that folder, you'd just drag and drop the file into that location map folder. Same thing with the existing typical section, same thing with the right-of-way document, the resolutions, public support, cost estimate, local plan, everything that you plan to submit with the application you would upload here. Now the required documents, if you look in the application checklist, it'll tell you which ones are required. So basically number 8 and up are all required and 9 and below are all supplementary information. Some of them giving you extra points, some of them giving us a better understanding of the project itself. And you'll notice that there is 3 resolution sections here. So resolution for the project, that is a resolution from the cities that are submitting it. If it's just one city, your agency, you would just put your resolution in there. If it's 2 agencies, say you're the city of Sunrise and you wanted to partner with the city of Wilton Manors to do a project together, you would put both resolutions in that folder. Now, if the right-of-way owner is the same as the city that is submitting, you would just, again, just put an extra copy in there. That way I know that you submitted something, that you understand that it's your right-of-way. If it's a different agency, say it's Broward County that owns the road, you would put a resolution from Broward County in there. If it's from DOT, they don't do resolutions, obviously, but they do letters of support. If you work with them ahead of time, you'd put that in there. And the last one on here is a resolution for O&M. So say, again, your agency does the O&M internally. It would be, and you're only submitting for a project inside your agency on a local road, it'd be all three the same resolution. So you just put copies of the resolutions in each folder. Say Broward County is maintaining the road, you'd put the Broward County resolution saying that it's maintaining the road in here. So that's about it. If you have any more questions about these resolutions, feel free to email me, or I'll take a question in the Q&A section as well. But that's about it. You would just kind of drag and drop all the documents in here based off of that checklist that I mentioned and showed a little bit earlier. And again, all this information is available on the CSLIP website. The README document down here, just kind of wanted to view it, but it really just shows you, I don't know what's going on there. It shows you essentially just a slightly more detailed list in order. So it goes into detail about, you know, what exactly resolution this is, or, you know, what exactly cost estimate form this is. Again, if you need more information other than that, I'd be happy to work with you as well. So with that, I will actually bring it into the Q&A section of the presentation. And Rebecca, I think you're gonna have to help me with this because I do not see the attendees list. Oh, I think I see it now. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen, and I think I'll have a better look at this. Okay. So I do have one hand, Sal. I'll allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. So Sal, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, thank you. Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, great presentation. Just a few questions. As far as the lab delivery method for this CSLIP, the lab will only, this CSLIP, this cycle will only cover construction cost, or would it cover the design cost and CEI?
So right now, yeah, great question. So right now, unfortunately, we don't know the details of it yet. The intent for the MPO is to figure out a way to cover the design and CEI costs. Our executive director, Greg, and Bill Cross here at the MPO are working directly with FDOT to get some of these things resolved. DOT has agreed to do a presentation to the TAC and to the MPO board to kind of talk about these things, but unfortunately, I don't really know any more information other than that.
Yeah, and one of the reasons
hopefully we should.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. Oh, I was just going to say that we're trying to figure all this information out prior to not only the deadline for CSLIP, but also to give you all enough time to say if for some reason you do have to provide the design costs and the CEI costs, give you enough time to coordinate internally and figure that out before you submit.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I was asking is because it takes a long time, and I'm sure for other municipalities, for us to get a resolution of support from our city officials. So when we go out for a resolution of support, we need to be able to explain clearly what are we getting into, if we're gonna need to budget for any design or CEI in the future if we get awarded for this project. So I was wondering at what point are we gonna know this? Because before we take it to our city officials, we need to be able to explain to them.
Yeah, and I completely understand. And we're going to work with you guys to try to figure all this out. Unfortunately, again, I don't have all the information. I would love to have all the information right now, but
so is there a possibility?
Yeah, that's all I know.
Is there a possibility of the resolutions, the submission of the resolutions being delayed until, like, let's say we submit an application, but we submit it without the resolution of support from the commission until we get clarification on how the project will be awarded, if it will be awarded just for construction, because we're going to have to write this down and explain that if we're going to have to budget design and CEI.
Yeah, and I get, so we definitely need a resolution when you submit the application. Right now, the resolution language is, it's kind of vague in a way to allow some flexibility with the agencies. We understand there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. So it could just be maybe you taking a resolution to your commission saying that you're applying for CSLIP funds at this time, but there's some uncertainty whether or not we'll have to pay for the design costs or something like that, and then follow up with them at a later date, past the submission date, with you know, the information that they need. And I'm thinking worst case scenario, you know, you apply for a project, we find out for some reason that we do have to pay for the design and CEI. You would then go to your board, tell them that if they don't want, you know, to proceed with the application at that point, then we would just have to pull the application out. I don't think we'll be penalizing anybody for pulling out applications this year just due to some of the uncertainty.
Okay, so I guess you answered my next question, which was that if for some reason we don't get the support now that we know, then I guess we'll be able to pull the application out after submission.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any other. I mean, in the policies for CSLIP, it does say there's a penalty for defaulting on, you know, applications or something like that. But in this instance, there's a lot of unknowns right now. We totally understand kind of the uncertainty on the city side as well. So yeah, there wouldn't. I wouldn't assume there'd be a penalty. Okay,
and my second question, I understood from the presentation you're gonna be doing the one-on-one meetings in September. Is that correct? Yes. So I guess we'll be getting emails.
Yeah. So. Yep. Yeah. So we had a delay. So normally we start them a little earlier in the process, and we delayed them a little bit for two reasons. We're still waiting to hear back from DOT as to whether or not they'll be participating in those meetings. And one of the more major reasons is some of these unknowns. We were really hoping to get some more information about, you know, the CEI and design costs. So we kind of held off, hoping we get some more information. At this point, again, like I mentioned earlier, we don't have all that information. We got to get these meetings done. So we're just gonna, I think, wait a couple more days and then probably start sending out some of the scheduling emails.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Good presentation, by the way.
Yeah, sure thing. Awesome. Thank you. All right, the next question I have is from Chris Torres. I will allow you to talk, and there you go. Chris, you
Hi
there?
guys, this is Chris Torres, City
how's it going?
Lauderhill. How's it going? Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Fazil, for the presentation. I have two questions. So, I mean, you may have covered it, but my connection was a little wonky. When does the portal open for this cycle? Do you know?
So the application portal will open at the latest. I think I set a tentative date for October 1st. Okay. That being said, if we get everything finalized and everything looks pretty clear, I'll open it a little bit earlier. Again, all the questions that are going to be asked in the application are available in that Word document on the website.
Cool. Okay.
So if you want to like plan ahead or fill things out, you can download that.
Definitely.
But yeah, to your question, at the latest October 1st.
Okay, perfect. And then my next question, is there a way that you can just kind of give me a brief overview of how the LAP process works? I know I took a couple of, I was in a couple of meetings for like safe routes. Is it very similar to safe routes?
My understanding, yeah, it's going to be probably pretty similar to safe routes. I think essentially what happens is you're awarded the funding either through CSLIP or safe routes, and the money gets kind of funneled through DOT either way. So I'd imagine it's going to be a similar process to safe routes to school. Yeah.
would we then, as a city, I believe there was some type of maybe certification process that we would have to go through as like a pre-approval to go through LAP?
So I think DOT is going to be a little bit more flexible this year, but there is going to be a certification process. I don't think you necessarily have to do it ahead of time now,
Okay, perfect.
just because of everything that's going on.
Okay.
But yeah, and it is project by project. So if you do get awarded 2 projects, I think you have to go through the certification twice or something like that.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Should I then maybe reach out to DOT, see what that timeline looks like to get certified?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could definitely you could reach out to I believe Maya Williams is handling. She might be the lab coordinator, but I can double check and I'll send out a follow-up email on who the best person to coordinate with. Actually, I think they did get a new lab coordinator.
Okay.
So I'll provide that information for you.
Okay, I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Sure thing. Yeah. Right.
Also, Chris, I'm just going to add on to that question. FDOT also has a lab page, which also gives you more information on what that certification encompasses. Also, you can just type in lab and FDOT into Google, and it'll pull you up to that page, and it even provides a presentation and other requirements that the locals municipalities would have to send in order to get certified for that project.
Yeah, it's a great point, Fossil. Thank you for mentioning that. And actually, I'll what I'll do is I'll include a link to that page on the CSLIP website. That way, it's a little bit. Oh, sorry. I don't know, Fossil. I might have been talking over you. I'm not sure, but it kind of cut out for a little bit on my end. Sorry about that. But I don't know if you heard, but I'll try to include that link that you mentioned on the CSLIP website, so it's easily accessible. I got another question coming in. Let me, I saw Greg on there. I don't know if he wanted to mention something, but I see another question coming from Chris, so I'll allow you to talk. Chris, you there? Rebecca, I don't see a mic from him. Is there an issue on our end, or? Oh, he put his hand down.
I can't
Okay.
find that either. That's the same issue.
Okay. So Chris, if you have a question, we can't hear you right now, but just shoot me an email and I'll try to answer that for you. I don't see any other questions, but I'll leave it open for a little bit more, just in case anybody thinks of anything. But for now, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining today. I think we're going to wrap things up. Again, my name's Connor Campobasso. If you do have any questions, you can reach me via email at campobassoc@browardmpo.org. I know that's quite long, but it's available on the presentation as well as the backup. And it's also all over the CSLIP website, so you should be able to find it spelled out somewhere. Yeah, again, and also my phone number. I do recommend just emailing me because I'm working from my house quite often, and the call forwarding from my office phone is intermittent. But just in case, if you wanted to give me a call, it's 954-876-0054. Again, thank you, everybody. I'll be sticking around for a little bit longer if anybody else has any other questions. Thank you. All right. I think we're gonna close up here. Rebecca, if you want to stop the recording, and we can end the meeting. unless you see any other hands. I still see quite a few people in the lobby, so.
Looks good. Gonna be closing up now.
Okay,
Have a
sounds
good
good.
one,
All
guys.
right, well, I appreciate everybody that's left in the lobby. I look forward to working with you soon. Thank you.